Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Super excited for you to hear today's amazing episode. But before I jump into that, I have so many people that reach out to me and ask, how do I start a podcast? What do I need to do? And what you guys listen to, wherever you're listening to this from, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, in my opinion, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. It's one of those things where I jumped into it because it has everything that I needed in one place. And that's what I loved about it. The tools that allow you to record and then edit your podcast from your phone or your computer, which is so accessible. But also, when you actually host your podcast on Anchor like I do, you can distribute that podcast on all the listening platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, all the different big ones that people are listening to. It's all from here. And it's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. And the other great thing is, and why I always suggest it to people, it's absolutely free. And this is the easiest thing to do. All you have to do is download the Anchor app on Apple or on your Android, or go to anchor.fm. And that's how you get started. It's that simple. So if you have a message, if you have something really important you want to share, getting your podcast out on the anchor.fm platform will get you there. And not even will get you there, you'll be amazed at what could happen. So enjoy today's episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. And it's going to be a fun one because someone else is here.
Hello. I'm here again.
There she is. It's if you didn't figure it out, Nancy is here again. So we're going to do another dual episode. And first and foremost, the doors are actually still open to our Expert Authority Mastermind. We've actually opened up a few more spots. The doors close Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we are excited to say that we have 10 brand new people to welcome into the Expert Authority family. And
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, this was it was a wonderful week. We did a 6-day LinkedIn intensive. There were over 100 people that registered. People had major wins along the way, and we're just very grateful for those that did take the time to invest the $49 to learn from us over those 6 days. But even more excited about the 10 individuals, and we have 2 spots left. So there's 2 more of you out there if you want to join us, for those 10 individuals that said, you know what, I want to learn from you and Nancy on how to become the expert in our space. So again, within our mastermind, we teach you how to launch your own podcast like the ones that Nancy and I have, write your own book like Nancy is going to be releasing hers very, very soon. We're going to talk about that in upcoming episodes. And obviously my latest book that came out a month or so ago, creating courses, optimizing all those things, and growing your business online and offline. And we are super excited to welcome those 10 people. And again, if you're interested, there's going to be a link in the episode to check out our sales page, but also a link to our calendar. If you would like to talk about it, we can tell you if it's a good fit for you with your business. But again, we have 2 spots left. So if you want to up-level yourself and you would love to work with myself and Nancy over the next 12 months, yes, over the next 12 months, we would love to have you. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy, who is going to talk about a very important topic of what we're going to be touching on in today's episode. Nance, why don't you tell them what it's all about?
Yeah. So this topic, right, is very popular. It's been popping up quite a bit, especially with video, right, continuing to be such a powerful form of content for professionals, for coaches, for entrepreneurs to show up online. And the topic is, and we're going to share, right, 3 tips to promote yourself on video, even when you're uncomfortable doing
Mm,
it. So I wanted to share this one. I mean, I personally, with the agency, I work with a lot of people. In fact, that's what we do. We repurpose videos each week. So we need our clients to shoot, a 2 to 5 minute video for us to break apart and obviously post and all that good stuff each week. So I just really wanted to dive into this. And especially, I think it's great to dive into it with none other than Scott, because I don't know anyone in the entrepreneurial space or, as obviously a professional in what he does, who is who is more consistent than Scott is. Scott, actually, can you share like with everyone, how many videos do you typically do each week?
I mean, I do at least two per week. I do LinkedIn Lives Mondays and Thursdays between 10 and 10:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But they get streamed to Facebook and YouTube. But on a launch week, just like we had this past week, uh, I did two videos on Mondays and Thursdays, and then we did video trainings Tuesday through Sunday. So, I mean, we did 8 videos this week. So, yeah, I'm doing at a minimum. And then if you count my reels, which I do a couple of those a week, I mean, I would say on average 3 to 5 videos a week.
Yeah. So you're doing lots of video.
Lots of videos.
Okay. So, for someone who is, obviously I know one thing that's cool about us, obviously relationship wise, and also obviously from a business partner standpoint is we both have our strengths, we both have our weaknesses, and obviously we really play to our skill sets. And you, obviously, I really love how amazing you are at video. And that's just something that is obviously not doesn't come second nature to me. Okay. So it's something that over the years I've had to work a little harder on and obviously discover what works best for me and what makes me feel, a little less comfortable whenever I go, live and so on and so forth. But what we really want to share with, everyone listening today is, even if you haven't been doing this, for a while, or if this is something brand new that you're like, you know what, I've got to get out there. I've got to start putting myself out there and I got to share with people what I do. We're going to give you some solid gold tips. And, these aren't just tips, we came up with and we're just kind of sending out there. It's tips that we have used ourselves. Okay. And these are tips that I would give anyone, client, friend, family member, who would be really wanting to put themselves out and start showing up on video. So the first thing before we even get into the tips is, first off, why are people so scared, to get onto video? Right. So most people are super scared to put themselves out there. It all comes down to just fear, in general, right? It rears its ugly head. It causes us to, get stuck in inaction. And because we're fearful, that people will judge us or think that we look silly or, whatever it is, people don't do it. So you've got to realize that the reason why you're not putting yourself out there isn't because you're a perfectionist or because you want your video to look just so and you want it to be perfect. It's because you're scared. Right. So I keep saying this quote. I heard it a couple weeks ago. It was on a podcast that I was listening to. And, I really love it. And that's why I keep bringing it up. But if you are fear of the judgment, if you're afraid of the judgment, you're not focused on the journey. And I love it so much because even no matter what it is that you do, right? If you are so focused on judgment and you're so focused on putting yourself out there, it's going to really put you in a corner. And when you don't share with people what it is that you do, people don't know what you do and they can't hire you. Okay. So the goal is to show up and, shoot some videos, get yourself out there, and get in the swing of things. Okay. So this is like clockwork. Every single time I work with a client, just so you guys know, is every single one of them usually starts out, feeling like, having this sense of, I want the video to be perfect. I want the lighting to be perfect. If I say, more than 3 times in the video, I need to reshoot it. And they end up shooting the video like a million times. And by the time we're like, all right, do you have a video for us? It's a hit or miss. Okay. So the key though, is after usually shooting a few times, people are able to get into a swing of things, and they follow some of these tips that we're about to go through. So tip number one is going to sound so basic, but it is such a game changer. And I want you guys to really think and reflect on what I'm asking and what I'm actually saying here. Okay. And the tip one is know your stuff. Okay. So I'm going to share the 2 points and I'm going to ask Scott, his take on it. But, know your stuff. And the first point of that, right, is know what you're talking about. Okay. Just plain know what you're talking about. And then the second little point of that is know the benefits you provide, right? Know why people need to hire you. So, Scott, can you share with me, again, whenever I say know what you're talking about, what does that mean? And how can people work to better, obviously, know what they're talking about?
Well, I think it's focusing on what your area of expertise is. So whenever you're doing a video on anything, for me, example, I'm never going to talk about something that I don't know about. So I'm not going to talk about astrophysics or anything of that nature. I'm just
No.
not. I'm going to talk about things that I know about, and I've said this before in podcast episodes and in trainings. To be considered the expert in a space, all you have to know is a little bit more than someone else. So sometimes if there's a new update to LinkedIn, or if there's new knowledge that I want to share, I'll do my research. I'll read some blogs. I'll read some content that someone else has posted. I'll take note of it. I'll try it out myself, and I will put my own twist on it. So my mom always says facts are friendly. So whenever I'm talking about a specific topic, I want statistics behind it. I want facts behind it. And I want to provide value added commentary that's directed towards those areas or those things that I'm speaking about. I prepare, like, even though Nancy says, I could just jump on there and just, talk about whatever. Yes, that is true. I do come up with my topics very quickly, but they're very, very thought out and planned. I don't just say, I'm just going to hit record and whatever falls out of my mouth is what I'm going to talk about. I always think about what I'm going to talk about. And Nancy has said this before, that I don't write everything completely out, but when I have a topic, I'll write 3 bullet points out that frame what it is that I want to say. And once I have the frame of what I want to say, I just fill in the gaps with things that I know. And I'll share one quick little tidbit, and I'll turn it back to Nancy. During our mastermind, one of our standout clients, Gary Miles, came on there, who has a great podcast. Check it out on iTunes. It's called The Free Lawyer with Gary Miles. He shared with me, he goes, Scott, I've listened to your podcast so many times, I can probably do the episodes for you. And that is actually that's a good thing. That means that I'm very clear, I'm specific, and I don't sway too far off the beaten path with things that I'm talking about. When people listen to the episodes of my podcast, they traditionally know exactly what they're going to get. They're going to get a really great interview. They're going to get a collab interview like you're hearing today with myself and Nancy, or you're going to get some value added commentary that revolves around my zone of genius, which is LinkedIn. So when Nancy talks about know what you're talking about, think about, just like Nancy talks about, your content buckets, right? So your zones of genius. Talk about things that what you could talk about. Don't sway outside of something that, just because maybe there's a hot button right now or a hot topic, that doesn't mean you need to talk about it, because if you don't know enough about it, you're not going to have enough to say about it. So stay in your lane and talk about things that you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing is, I actually wrote this down. This is like a quote, right? So if it feels uncomfortable, whether it be in business and leadership, lean in and see why and what's going on. And okay. So I always say that, and I'm kind of referring back to like my leadership days when I used to lead teams and things like that. Every time something felt icky or uncomfortable or weird, kind of in my jellies, it's probably a good idea to go, what's going on here? Or, if maybe somebody's acting weird or something, address it. Hey, what's going on? Hey, can we, you lean into it. So in this case, if you go to talk about something and it feels icky and it's like, ooh, this doesn't feel very natural, not good, go read up about it, right? Spend some time. I mean, if you are the subject matter expert and you want to be the expert in your space, let's say I use the example of, maybe your audience is really, let's say you're a social media manager and your audience is really asking, what are the latest trends, the latest social media trends on, the different platforms. Well, first you're going to do some research, right? You're not just going to like fly by the seat of your pants and say, oh, well, Twitter's doing some things here and, just totally flying by the seat. No, you want to research it, right? Have a good understanding of what those trends are prior to jumping on and doing video, right? Then you'll feel a little more comfortable. And then, of course, you're going to feel good talking about it. I mean, right now, I feel so comfortable talking about what we are sharing right now, because we loved it, we breathed it, we've helped so many people with it. It's easy, right, to talk about. So if it's not feeling good, lean into it a little bit, learn a little bit more. Okay. Now, the second part of that, right? So we're still on tip one, know your stuff, is knowing the benefits you provide. Okay. So this one sounds pretty self-explanatory, but honestly, one of the biggest reasons why it's hard for coaches and for professionals to ask for money is because they haven't thought through all the benefits they offer. Okay. If you don't know your value and what you truly deliver in all aspects, it will make it hard for you to confidently show up and share what you have to offer. Plain and simple. Okay. So take some time and really think through 5 to 10 benefits people will experience, when they hire you. And remember, people buy things because they want results, right? They're not just like, here, take my money just because, people aren't doing that. Okay. People want to know what it is that they're going to get whenever they walk away, after working with you. And you want to really think through those 5 to 10 benefits, right? You want to think, connect them, right, to things that people really want, i.e., a better life, more money, better relationships, more joy. I think about, I don't know, like a health coach, for example. A health coach could say, oh, you could work with me and I can help you have better nutrition. You can learn more about food. That's sucks, right? Like, think about the benefits. Oh my gosh, I'll teach you how to fuel your body better so you have more energy, so that you're more focused, so that you're not only more productive at work, you can make more money, you can have better relationships because you have less brain fog and you're able to communicate with your partner better. I mean, literally, you can connect it to anything as long as, right, it's part of the value you provide. So I want you to really do that exercise. And it's good for people who already feel pretty confident, right? Revisit it. Think about those things. Even like, let's say you've worked with tons of clients, and even for you, Scott, right? Think about it. Like, how many people have you worked with? What are they saying, right? Like, so, even do this experiment. The last person who just hired you, go to them and just say, can you share with me, some of the benefits you've had so far working with me? And, you can even look in testimonials or recommendations that people have typed up for you. Everyone kind of takes away some different things, but if you're being very specific on what it is that you're providing and you're setting those expectations, it makes it a lot easier for people to hire you. Okay. So tip number 2 is strengthening your skills. Okay. And strengthen your skills by doing the do. Okay. And I'm just going to say a quote and then I'm going to leave it to Scott because Scott is the king of consistency here. And the quote is by Cesar Millan, which is actually a dog trainer. Cesar Millan is an expert at what he does, but the quote is repetition creates the master. So Scott, can you share with us a little bit about, strengthening your skills by actually doing the do?
Well, one of my favorite quotes is by T. Harv Eker, and he says, every master was once a disaster. So for anyone that watches any of my training videos, any of the workshops that Nancy and I do together, her podcast, my podcast, it wasn't an overnight success type of situation. It is the side effect and the result of being super, super consistent and understanding that every single one of us is a work in progress. Now, the funny thing is, and I can't tell you how many times this has happened where Nancy and I were working with clients and, we've been gently pushing them along to start their podcast. And there was a lot of fear that was there, like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to say. Who's going to listen? Even getting on video. But what I know now, and I think so many people can relate to this, is that the first time that you do something, it's always the scariest. Always. Think about when you're in an amusement park, right? So I used to go to Dorney Park as a kid all the time, and there was a roller coaster called Hercules. It was at the time it was the largest wooden roller coaster on the entire East Coast, and that was kind of like the pinnacle event of the day. If you were going to go to Dorney Park and you hadn't done Hercules before, you'd go and do it. Now, the way that Hercules worked is it was one of those roller coasters that started out very, very slow. And all it did was it like, I mean, you can hear every clink of the chain pulling you all the way up. And then all of a sudden you stop at the top and then they just shoot you straight down. The first time you go on that roller coaster, you are terrified. I mean, you are scared. Now, as the ride goes along and you get back to where you began, you're like, that wasn't so bad. And it was an experience. So you know exactly what to expect the next time. So, you get out of line, you get right back in line again. You want to go on a second time. And now it's like more fun because you know what to expect. Yes, you're going to go up that hill again. You're going to hear the clinks of those chains, but the fear starts to really diminish. It's the same thing the first time that you get on camera. The first time you hit that go live button, it is scary. It's very scary. Every time you hit that record button when you're recording your first podcast, very scary. The first time you're putting on your workshop, which Nancy and I did 2 years ago, where you're waiting for people, and like we had 200 people waiting in the waiting room for us. Like, that was scary. Like, I remember Nancy, like we let everybody into the room. I was talking so fast because
I was yeah, I remember that.
I was so excited. You were like grabbing my leg. You're like,
He was like,
just
slow down.
I'm like, hey, everybody, how you doing today? How's it going? Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, we have so many people. And I was like, I remember I was like, whoa, like,
I was
easy.
But
Yeah.
now it's gotten better and better. So the fact is, anyone that's listening to this, that you have that narrative or that story that I'm not going to be good on live video because I'm going to fumble over my words. I'm going to say and ah. I say and ah all the time. And you know what that's called? It's called being a human being. No one's going to be perfect. Now, if you want to write out a script and read word for word from that, hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I mean, it's not, people want to feel connected to a real person. So when you jump on there, and that's why a lot of the videos that I do when Nancy and I are on vacation, I'm either, walking or I'm sitting in my car after the gym. Like, I hit record and I just go. I just let things flow. So the fact of the matter is that when you are consistent with anything, think about, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it to Nancy. Think about when you're looking to get in better shape. You're looking to lose weight. You're looking to put on muscle. And I always correlate this back to the gym industry. When you start working out, you don't walk into the gym once and then walk out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It takes years and years and years of repetition, and you're still challenging yourself. So to think that, Nancy and I have mastered podcasts, we haven't. To think that we've mastered video, haven't. But we're always looking to get better and better. So the easiest piece of advice that I can give you is just start. That's it. Just start, and you'll figure out the rest along the way. I promise you. I can't tell you how many times these words have come out of other people's mouths after speaking to Nancy and I. That wasn't so bad. And I promise you that is exactly what you're going to experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I just couldn't even, Scott really hit the nail on the head with all of that. The more you do it, the better you get. Okay. But the whole fact of the matter, right? You got to do it. So tip number 3 is find what works for you. Okay. And again, Scott kind of shared a couple tips, and things that he does whenever it comes to like, doing like a note card or, having something there to kind of keep yourself on track. But, find what works for you. Do you need to actually write out all your notes, prior to shooting your video, just so, it's fresh in your mind? Okay. That's me. I usually actually like to write things out. And then, of course, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I'm going to be able to refer to it, or I'm going to obviously kind of do the bullet pointing, but it's fresh in my mind. If that works for you, awesome. Would you benefit by using an app or something like a teleprompter app? Again, not to read so you sound like a robot, but maybe to like keep you on track so that you're not, going down a bunch of rabbit holes. Awesome. Absolutely fine. That's also something that I do. In fact, anytime that I'm doing like a recorded course or a training and I want to make sure I don't miss anything, I always usually pull it up on my teleprompter because I've pre-written the curriculum. I've got everything written out, and I just hit the space bar and I, go through, and I'll, obviously pace myself and not sound like a robot, but it will keep me on track. So if that works for you, awesome. Okay. But think of the different things that might help you, and it might give you a little boost of confidence, right? The whole goal is get to a point where you can really shoot a video, and it almost feels like you're talking to an old friend. Right? You're going to sit in front of the camera, right, just like this, and it's like you're having a conversation. Now, of course, I'm having a conversation with Scott right now. So again, it's easy. But imagine, right? If you're just plain shooting a video and you're sharing a few tips, let's say it's, hey guys, Nancy here. And this week I'm going to share 3 tips how to stay focused and actually get things done, right? Tip number 1, tip number 2, tip number 3, wrap it all up and then call to action wherever you want people to do. Right. So think about what works best for you. Again, it's going to take time. It's going to take practice. Even the people who are the greatest on video, right? Even Scott. In fact, even I worked with a coach who actually works with people to train them on video, and right, it was crazy. I mean, she works with lots of different people. She was, was really rough on video the first time. In fact, I loved it because she was so raw and real, because she shared her first video with everyone to show how far she had come. And it was so real, and I appreciated it. So just keep that in mind, that again, you're going to get better. Now, before we close out, I do want to remind you, right, that confidence is a skill. Okay. And a lot of people don't think of it this way. And confidence, just full transparency, is something that I've worked on so much. And it's probably been the biggest game changer in the last, I would say, like 5 years of my life. If I didn't work on confidence in who I was as a person, I honestly don't think Scott and I would be together, because one of the reasons why he even said that he, was with me and that he, loved, hanging out with me, is because I was so confident in who I was. Right. So I really had to work on that confidence. I had to remember, the amazing things that made me amazing, and, all those different things. So of course that's personal, but, when we look on the business standpoint and the business side of things, remember what makes you unique, authentic, remember all those benefits that you provide, and work on that confidence like a skill, right? It takes time, but I'm telling you, when you become confident and you show up and you don't care what that person says, and you're more focused on, what people need to hear, what I have to offer, and people need help. And I cannot wait to get out there and share value and be that expert and tell people what it is that I do. You become unstoppable. I mean, your business just goes to new levels. So lastly, and actually, Scott, I just want to share one extra little bonus tip is mindset. You have a gift to share with people. Stop, hiding that gift. Stop keeping it secret. You've got to promote yourself and put yourself out there in order for people to know how they can work with you. So that's the final tip, is do not keep yourself secret. And from a mindset standpoint, don't hide your gift, right? Share it. So anything else you want to add?
Well, I'll close this out in a second, but the
Yeah.
last thing I'll say is that, we don't need to act like tomorrow is promised, because it's not. And there are so many people out there that have just incredible gifts to give. You have skill sets and talents that are inside of you that are waiting to be let out, but you're letting that negative inner self-talk stop you from opening up that door of opportunity. And Les Brown talks about this all the time, that in the graveyards around the world are buried not just incredible people, but some of the best songs that were never written and sung, some of the greatest novels that were never written, some of the greatest movies that were never produced, and some of the greatest athletes that never actually tried out to be an athlete. So
Yeah.
it's again, you don't want to tiptoe through life and arrive at your grave safely. You want to squeeze the juice out of as much as you can, and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, showing up on camera. You know, after a few weeks, maybe even a few months, people will think you've been doing it for years because you start to get, as soon as a human being gets comfortable doing something, it just becomes second nature. Robin Sharma talks about it takes 66 days to create a habit. And it's the truth. So if you want to get better, I'm not saying do a video every day for 66 days, but if you're consistent with doing videos, once, twice a week, for 2, 3 months, you're going to be good. And people are going to then ask you, how do you do that? And you're going to be able to showcase and highlight what you love, not just about yourself, but why you're in business and what you're doing. There are so many people that could be benefiting from your skill set and your talent. They just don't know it because you're not putting yourself out there. You can't wait for people to reach out to you or become mind readers and, think like, oh, I bet they do this. If no one knows what you do, how are you ever going to work with them? So
Yep.
you can't expect people to know exactly what it is that you do if you don't tell them what it is that you do and how you help people.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we just, obviously hope you guys got a lot of information and a lot of value out of this episode. But, if you take away one thing, it's a good idea for your business right now to create video. And if you actually just hit play and you did the do, you can do it too. Anyone can do it. And just to tack on that, it's funny. I was watching a video on how to like really build and scale a YouTube channel the other day, and I kind of giggled, right? Because we're obviously talking about it right now because the YouTube, person who was teaching on all the things with YouTube and everything said, what, so many people think that they're going to go viral and hit it big on the first video. And they're so like trying to make it perfect. She goes, in fact, forget about your first video. In fact, forget about your first 50 videos. So it kind of made me laugh because, again, you got to do the do, you got to put the work in. You can always go back, tweak things. You can re-talk about a topic later on. It's not like you just wasted that topic
I do
forever.
it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So do the do, put yourself out there, go shoot those videos. And hopefully this episode will give you a little bit of a boost and go build that confidence, get yourself out there.
So, guys, remember, be confident, know what you're talking about. Don't try to make something up that you don't know, and be consistent. So, everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.